Okay, so we're back in the good old edit panel and we're going to cover some more little tips and tricks for using it that will help you in your second pass and any of your own editing projects. In this lecture, we're going to talk about the auto select button, which is also known as the Me Too button by one trainer who I met and also me as well, because it's the best way of explaining this little thing and it's also very useful. Now, we already know that multiple video tracks in the cut panel can be a bit of a headache, but we can actually control the behavior of each individual track, audio and video, in the edit panel quite easily, so we don't have to worry about only the first track rippling or other things going weird. And the key to that is the auto select icon. And I'm going to tell you why I like to think of this as the Me Too button now after I dealt with this other trainer. So here is the issue. I want to set my IO on my timeline, and let's say for argument's sake I want to delete only the first track but not the second. Let's say I'm preparing this for a grade and I want to get rid of buried material down here, right? That would be an easy-ish way to do that. If I hit delete or backspace, or if I hit backspace, it will delete everything and leave empty space. If I hit delete, it will erase everything and ripple the edit down. But in both cases, I'm deleting content on both video tracks, and I don't want this. I want only to delete, but not ripple delete, the content on video track 1. So how do I do this? Well, we could hit the lock on video track 2 and then hit backspace. That will get us where we need to go. It's a bit of a cumbersome way of doing it, and when we have lots of different tracks, it can be a bit of a faff to go and, lock each one individually. We can choose which of our tracks is affected by our edit operations, insert, overwrite, cut, delete, all of that good stuff, without locking them. And we use the auto select button to do that. Now, the lock is the padlock. We then have these little chevrons here in this little box. This is the auto select button. This is the Me Too button. And then we have the film cell, which is activate or deactivate track. By default, the auto select, the Me Too button, is active on every track. And every track that has the auto select button active will be affected by operations that we carry out. They will be affected by 3-point editing operations using keyboard shortcuts or buttons. And we can manually opt individual tracks in and out of these operations as and when we please. I only want to delete what is in the first track. And if I hit backspace now, it will delete both tracks, content from both tracks. So what I want to do is I want to opt the second track out of this operation, and I do that by deactivating the auto select icon for this track. So I can just click this little button here and you'll notice that it's now grayed out when I have this IO active, and that shows that my operations will now not affect this track. And if I now hit backspace, look what happens. I've gotten rid of this content down here. This is left untouched. And if I were to hit backspace, only the first track would ripple, the second track would be left alone. This current setup is a lot like what we have in the cut panel by default, and the auto select buttons do not exist in the cut panel. So the only way to get this kind of control over the behavior of our video and audio tracks is to do this here. Now I can click and I can bring it back. I'll just get rid of that, and then I click to bring it back, and then all ripple functions, all insert functions will affect this track again. Okay? So that's a nice simple trick for keeping control of individual tracks. Now, you need to be aware that these buttons also exist on audio tracks. So you do need to be wary of cutting holes in your audio by mistake. Just doing it up here is not enough. So we also have the exact same functions here in the audio tracks. So if I Control Z back to where I had this, and I opt my two audio tracks out because I will still want the undercutting audio but want to get rid of the video to make the grade a little simpler to navigate, and then hit backspace, then I've just gotten rid of whatever it is that I want to get rid of. I have preserved my audio. I have not messed anything else up. I will then go and click these tracks back in. So it's a nice way to handle multiple tracks. So that's how we do it with the mouse. What we're going to do next is we're going to go back and we're going to do all of this with the keyboard only to show how quick and easy this can be. Now, if you are working on Windows, before you do this, you need to go, well, if you have NVIDIA Experience installed, I should say, you need to go into NVIDIA Experience and deactivate Game Overlay. NVIDIA Experience will think that you are trying to take a game screenshot if you use one of the shortcuts that we're going to use. So if you have that installed on your Windows machine, go into the settings in NVIDIA Experience, turn Game Overlay off. Okay? Once you've done that, please continue with this demonstration. So we're now going to do this entirely with the keyboard. I'm going to make my IO selection dead easily, and then I'm going to exempt my two audio tracks. Now, the keyboard shortcut to toggle auto select or the Me Too button off and on is Alt F and then whatever the number of the track is that you're trying to toggle. So let's say I want to toggle track 1 off. The shortcut for that is Alt F1. Alt F2 is for track 2. Alt F3 is for track 3. Make sense? This does get to be a bit of a mess with audio though, so it's best to use this style of editing before you go into your track laying, because once you get 8 or 9 tracks of audio, it's going to be a nightmare to manually flag each one separately. It's just going to be difficult to do. Now, I've deactivated track 1. Okay, and I'm just going to hit the letter X because I've got the playhead over the clip in this track and I want to set my IO to match the start and end of this clip. And X is the key which does that. I then want to Alt F1 and then Alt F2 because I want to bring the first video track back in, and then I want to deactivate track 2. I don't want to select track 2. Now the reason that I deactivated track 1 first is that if track 1 is active, if the Me Too button or the auto select button is active there, then hitting X will actually will make IO to line up with the clip in the lowest track that is active, in the lowest track with auto select or Me Too active, right? So that's the reason why I did this first. I went Alt F1, turn off track 1, X, extract this clip, set IO to match this clip. Alt F1, bring back track 1, Alt F2, deactivate track 2. Now, I need to also opt out the 2 audio tracks, and the shortcut to toggle auto select or Me Too with audio tracks is Control and Alt and F, whatever the track is. So F1, F2 will then turn off the 2 audio tracks as well. So that's Control and Alt F, whatever the track is. Okay? Now I can hit backspace and then I can just Alt F2, Control Alt F1, F2, bring everything back, and I'm back to a standard method of editing. Once you get fluent in the keyboard, this is a super fast way to make very delicate surgical edits, and it's a really nice set of tricks to have when you're doing a pre-grade, basically when you're preparing an edit to hand over to another Resolve user for color, or another whatever user. Maybe you're editing in Resolve and getting it graded in Nucoder, which would be bizarre, but it could happen. Maybe. So that pretty much covers the auto select, and let's just go over why I'm calling it me too, because I've not done that yet. The reason I like to think about this as me too is that everything with this icon active is going to be included in our operations, is going to be affected by our operations. So it's like the track saying, oh, me too. It's like the track putting its hand up and getting involved in whatever else is going on with other tracks. And if they opt out, then they're not being affected. And I just like thinking about it like this. I like the idea of this being a little me too icon where if I'm going to ripple, if I'm going to cut, if I'm going to do anything within IO, this track's saying, yeah, me too. Okay? Unless it's off, in which case it's saying no thanks. So I just like that way of thinking about it. This is a nice trick to have, and it's going to become more and more useful as you start to stack up and work with more and more tracks. Although I typically like to try and keep to a maximum of 3 video tracks myself. Right, this has been a good overview. Click on through to the next lecture once you're ready.